Welcome, friend. I'm Jack, host of the channel, and today we're diving into another episode. Pour yourself a drink and get comfortable, because I've got a powerful story coming your way. If something hits deep, drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's get into it.
My wife Jessica and I got married a bit later in life. I was 30 and she was 32. That was about 8 years ago. We lived it up before we met, so we were both pretty broke. We talked about having kids and decided Jessica would be a stay-at-home mom until our youngest started school. We agreed that having a full-time parent was essential for the child's well-being, if we could afford it. That meant we had until we started a family to build up a nest egg to get us through the lean years. So, Jessica held down a full-time job while I did the same, with as much overtime as I could handle. I settled into a routine of doing double shifts on Thursdays, going in late Friday, and doing another 10 hours. It was paying off. We now own our house outright, and our bank balance was steadily climbing. Recent discussions led me to believe that kids were in the near future, certainly before Jessica reached the big 40 when the odds of conceiving dropped sharply. That's why the conversation we had last Tuesday night was so bizarre. David, I want to discuss a trial separation. How do you spell incredulous? I was so shocked that my brain froze. All I could say was, what? Those of you who have ever been dumped know the feeling. The person doing the dumping has it all planned out, totally prepared, while the one being dumped is caught off guard and confused. That was me. My next statement was equally profound. Why? I just think we need a break from each other to appreciate each other like we used to. You have to admit, David, you aren't as romantic as you used to be. You don't appreciate me like before. You always say you're too tired to go out more than once a month. You don't make love to me 4 times a week like you used to, and frankly, you're putting on a bit of weight. Surely, you'll agree a bit of a break will do us good. If I had been in a more rational frame of mind, I might have noted that in one monologue she switched from us to me. But that went right over my adult head. How about we say a month, David, then see how it's going. It'll stay amicable. Feel free to call me whenever you like, but I don't think we should see each other more than once a week. More than that, and it won't be much of a separation, will it? Just know, David, I love you very much, and we will make beautiful babies together. I'm sure after a month, 2 at the most, we'll be back where we used to be. With that, Jessica got up, retrieved 2 suitcases from the back hall, and marched to the front door. Don't I get any say in this? Jessica, I stuttered. My mind is made up. David, please, sit down. Jessica reluctantly returned. Who is he? Jessica. God, I knew you'd think that. I just told you, I love you, David. Only you. There's no one else, so there's no need to bug my phone. Follow me, put a GPS tracker in my car, or hire a pie. In fact, if you do any of those things, I may interpret that as you not trusting me and have to review our relationship. She made to get up again, but I grabbed her arm and pulled her back down. This is unfair. Jessica, you've had days or weeks to plan this, but it's all new to me. What gamble, David? She asked, finally showing some confusion. Surely, you see, you just put our relationship at risk with this unilateral move of yours. It reeks of contempt. I've always treated you as an equal partner and would never dream of doing something this risky without at least asking your opinion. What risk, David? I love you, you love me. Where's the harm? It's only for a month or so. If I miss you before then, I'll be back in a flash. What do you mean by contempt? What I mean is, you haven't given me a chance to defend myself. For example, we hardly go out because I work so much overtime on Thursdays and Fridays. We agreed on the overtime to improve our financial position. We don't spend time together as often as we used to, partly because we've been married for 8 years, and partly because I'm always so tired. I put on weight because you suggested I take the supervisor's position for the extra cash, and it's not as active as being on the tools. That's just what I thought of in the last 2 minutes. So please, can you stay so we can discuss it further? I'm sorry, David. I promised Kara I'd go out with her tonight. With that, she picked up her bags and walked to the door. All I could think to say was, just remember, you're married, Jessica. With only a slight pause, she continued out the door. I got no sleep that night and was in no state to do a 12-hour shift the next day, but it was too late to change it. The afternoon shift supervisor had already made plans after I promised to relieve him. In my job, you can't let your guard down too often. Consequently, I was standing in the wrong spot at 9 p.m. Friday when a 30-ton loader came around the corner and almost hit me. I threw myself aside at the last moment and felt the hot breath of the exhaust on my face from my position on the ground. Adrenaline got me through the rest of the shift. It didn't help that I was hungry. Wednesday was Jessica's weekly shopping day, but she'd skipped it to focus on packing. I was back on the job at AITA the next day with sandwiches made from stale bread. I stopped at a 24-hour corner store that night for some supplies. When I got home after 10:30 p.m., the message light on the phone was blinking. It was Jessica, saying she missed me and thanking me for giving her space by not calling her. She said not to, as she'd be out until late that night. I was starting to resent working so hard to put 3 times as much in the bank as her while she lived it up. Funny, I'd never resented that before. Neither of us called each other Sunday or Monday. I went to see the boss and said I couldn't do any overtime for a while. When he pressed me, I admitted to the close call I'd had on Friday night. He was shocked and quickly agreed with me. When I hadn't contacted Jessica by Tuesday, she called me. She didn't seem to have much to say. I felt a bit guilty about giving her the cold shoulder, so Wednesday, after dinner, I headed over to Kara's house with flowers and chocolates as a peace offering. Kara was Jessica's best friend, divorced just over a year ago. I never knew exactly why, but I suspect she may have cheated on her husband. She explained that Jessica was in the shower. I waited on the couch, and Kara sat beside me, much closer than I was comfortable with. I shuffled away subtly, but she followed. Thank God Jessica came down at this point. I gave her the flowers and chocolates. Our conversation was stilted, not like the easy communication we always shared. Was there something you wanted, David? Jessica asked. No, I just dropped in to ask my wife out on a date tomorrow night. I'm sorry, Kara and I already have plans. Hang on. Tomorrow is Thursday. You work Thursday nights. Not anymore, Jessica. I chucked that in. But what about the money? Well, I've decided to prioritize my marital and physical health. Now that I have to do all my own shopping, cleaning, and cooking, I'm even more tired than ever. When I got your message at 10:30 p.m. last Saturday night, telling me you were going out, I decided I was being a complete fool working myself to death. Last Friday, I was so tired I was almost killed at work. Jessica looked shocked. She came over and hugged me. Don't get hurt, darling. You'll need your little swimmers in a few months. At that point, Kara came back in and spoiled the mood. Sorry for kicking you out, David, but the girls will be here shortly for a Tupperware party. I bolted. There are some things a man was never meant to see. Jessica saw me out. Please come home. Jessica, I miss you. Another 3 weeks, David, then we'll talk about it. She looked very uncomfortable when she said this, like she hated saying no. Any good feelings I had vanished as she added, why don't you take a month off overtime, get your strength back? We don't need that money, David. I just looked at the flowers and chocolates lying where she'd casually tossed them and left. She called twice the next week, both times upset that I hadn't called her. I explained that working full-time, cooking for myself, and going to the gym didn't leave much time. I think that went over her head. My weekly visit was on Monday night the following week. Again, Jessica was showering. I didn't make the same mistake and sit on the couch. Kara was dressed up and stood very close as she spoke, making me uncomfortable. Jessica came downstairs, also dressed up, looking uncomfortable. I really should have called. If I had, I'd have known they were going out. I felt humiliated as I was bundled out. I could swear I heard giggles from the other side of the door. I vowed that was the last time I'd debase myself. Neither of us called for the rest of the week. That Saturday, I was working out in the backyard. I'd cobbled together some homemade weight equipment and felt myself approaching my previous strength. Suddenly, I felt arms encircling me from behind and a body pressing into my sweaty back. I enjoyed my first human contact in over 2 weeks. Suddenly, I froze as Kara's voice sounded right next to my ear. Sorry, gorgeous. I just couldn't resist. Shocked, I spun around. Disengaging to cover my discomfort, I asked if she wanted coffee. Kara was dressed in one of her usual outfits, showing off a rather impressive cleavage. Inside, I made sure to sit at the end of the kitchen table. It didn't work. Kara dragged a chair right next to mine, so close our legs were touching. David, aren't you going to ask how Jessica is? No. She made it quite plain that it was no business of mine. Kara smiled. She's a bit upset, you know. She was hoping you'd be begging by now. Sorry, Kara. Not my style. I asked her out on a date the first time I came to your place. She turned me down, saying she had already made plans. She never called to reschedule. I have no idea what the separation is about, so I'm just going to wait it out. See if she comes back or our marriage ends. I knew everything I said would be repeated to Jessica. I expected Kara to look worried at my last statement, but she just smiled and put her hand on my leg. You know, I've always admired you and Jessica as a couple. You must be secure in your love to let her date other guys. Or are you just pretending you're not worried? My blood ran cold. We hadn't talked about dating during the separation, but my statement of, "Don't forget you're married," should have been self-explanatory. Without a word, I left the house and jumped into my car. At Kara's house, I barged straight in. Out the kitchen window, I saw a bikini-clad Jessica sunning herself on the deck. With determination, I strode out. "Jessica, what is this? Kara tells me you're dating." "I haven't been dating, David. We met a couple of guys last Thursday at a club and danced a bit. We mentioned we might be there again last night and met them again, but that's hardly a date." Jessica didn't look worried as she defended herself. She looked determined. "And what happened last night, dear wife?" "Nothing. Just more dancing. Nothing inappropriate. We haven't kissed or anything like that. They bought us drinks and we danced a bit. Nothing inappropriate." "Since when has it been appropriate for a married woman to dance with other men when her husband isn't there? I suppose at the end of the evening, you just happened to mention when you'd be there next." No response. "Well, if you meet them again, it will definitely be a date and definitely be inappropriate." "Look, Jessica, all this is really hurting me. I still have no idea what this separation is about. Can we skip the next 2 weeks and just have you come home now? I miss you." "No, David. Not yet. In fact, I think we'll go past the month. I haven't regained my old feelings for you yet." Again, she looked uncomfortable, like she was saying something she didn't want to. Of all her irrational acts, this was the most confusing. I just stared at her for a moment longer, then got up to leave. "You could ask me out on another date. You know, you might get lucky this time." Without pausing or looking back, I threw out, "Or you could ask me out. You know where I live." From Monday onwards, Jessica began calling the home phone every night. The conversations were brief and uncomfortable. I got the impression she was just checking I was at home. I didn't like the implications of that. On Thursday night, she called at 7 p.m. The home phone diversion to my mobile worked like a charm. I could clearly hear music in the background. I was almost at Kara's house, where I confirmed Jessica's car was missing. I trolled the nightclub strip until I saw Jessica's car in a bar's parking lot. It was tucked away in the back corner. I peered through the window until I saw Jessica and Kara sitting alone in a booth. As I watched, 2 more girls joined them. One I vaguely recognized as another friend of Jessica's, Paige, and the other was a stranger. I watched Paige introduce the newcomer to Jessica and Kara. While they were distracted, I snuck into a vacant booth adjacent to theirs. By stooping slightly, I was unseen. I could catch most of what was said. Paige was talking. "You're mad, Jessica. From what you've described, your David is much more romantic than my husband." Another voice cut in, presumably the stranger's. "Yeah, me too. I'd kill for half of the things you say you get from my ex." Kara cut in. "Don't you think Jessica deserves better? Look at her. She's beautiful." Paige cut in again. "I don't know. Guys, it sounds like a very dangerous game to me. How do you treat him, Jessica? Do you spoil him rotten? It sounds like, with all the overtime, he must be exhausted. Do you keep him in bed all Sunday and treat him right? If he were mine, I would." Jessica has a very soft voice, so I didn't hear a word of her reply. When she finished, Paige restarted. "Is that all? And you're making this guy fight for you?" At that point, someone started the jukebox. I used the opportunity to evacuate my bladder. When I got out, my booth had been stolen. The bar was filling rapidly. I felt safe returning to my corner. I wondered how long it would be before the guys turned up. Over the next hour, I watched numerous guys approach the girls. They all left disappointed. Then I watched the stranger heading for the bar. She walked its length, looking for an opening. As she approached my corner, I made a big deal of making room for her. She smiled at me, then ordered 4 drinks. Up close, she was quite attractive, with short brown curly hair and an easy smile. As she waited for her drinks, she turned to me. "So, do you come here often?" "Hey, that's my line." "Well, you were too slow." We chatted easily until her drinks arrived. I didn't miss her glance at my ring finger. Because of my job, I hardly ever wear my ring. When her drinks arrived, she surprised me. Look, the conversation at my table is bloody awful. Do you mind if I use you as an excuse to leave? Do I mind if a beautiful girl talks to me? What do you reckon? I should warn you, though, I'm married. But my marriage is in extreme difficulty. That's why I'm here. Wow, well, thank you for your honesty. I'm just looking for companionship, so if it's still okay, I'd still like to chat. She smiled at my mischievous grin and was back in 2 minutes. We chatted very easily for the next hour and a half. I kept glancing over to make sure we weren't observed. I noticed that a man had taken the vacant seat at the girls' table and was buying all the drinks. Sarah was a delightful girl, and we were very comfortable together. At 11:30, Paige came over. I didn't see her until it was too late to hide. She had a vaguely puzzled look on her face. She knew she had seen me before, but didn't remember where. I smiled as Sarah introduced us. Paige whispered in Sarah's ear what I was almost sure was, "You're right, he's cute. Jessica has offered us a lift home. Do you want a ride?" I could see the indecision on Sarah's face, so I helped her out. "I really got to get going anyway. Lovely to talk to you, Sarah." I kissed her on the cheek. She blushed and left. Halfway to the door, she returned and gave me a business card. Without a word, with another smile, she left. I watched all 3 girls walk out, leaving Kara and the guy at the table. I decided to give them a few minutes head start in the car park. 2 minutes later, my phone rang. The caller ID showed it was Jessica ringing through the diverted home phone. After greetings, she asked why there was music in the background. "Are you having a party at the house?" "I'm in a bar, Jess. I've spent the evening chatting to a beautiful girl." "What the hell, David? Who said you could do that? Are you saying that you're the only one free to date? Are you saying I'm not free as well? While you're married to me, I expect you to behave appropriately. So, you're saying you didn't call me from a bar earlier? And I suppose those guys from last time didn't show up, did they?" "No, yes, maybe. Look, David, I told you, I'm not dating." It was good to see that I wasn't the only one confused. "Look, Jessica, can we please cut this crap and go back to how it was before? Come home now. I'll meet you there." There was a pause, and no. "I'm sorry, David. I'm just not ready." "Okay, just come for the night then." "No, sorry, David. I'll call you later." An hour later, I was almost asleep when I heard the garage door open. I leapt out of bed, hoping against hope that Jessica had changed her mind. From the window, I saw Jessica's car across the street. Then the garage door closed. Assured that I was home, she drove off. I went back to pondering what everything meant that I'd learned this evening, with no clear idea. I got the impression things were spiraling out of control. Kara came over Friday afternoon. I asked her what the hell her friend was playing at, but she denied all knowledge, not very convincingly though. This time, when she tried to smooch up to me, I was expecting it. I kept her at arm's length. "What the hell are you playing at, Kara? I'm married to your best friend, for Christ's sake." "For the moment, David. I just wanted to know if, after Jessica leaves you, I have a chance with you." This sounded so contrived as to be laughable, but it did solidify the first of my suspicions. "Don't you mean if Jessica leaves me, Kara?" "Of course, David. I really hope you make it." Being vague and telling her I felt really uncomfortable with the situation, I bundled her out the door. Kara really didn't want to go. She'd gone to the trouble of packing a picnic for us. In the end, I had to be blunt and tell her how inappropriate her behavior was before she got the hint. "Are you and Jessica going out again tonight?" "Yes, probably." "Was our party conversation?" "Screw it." I called Sarah. She seemed pleased to hear from me, but said it was impossible for her to get away tonight. She suggested Tuesday. I felt honor-bound to remind her, "Look, it will be just as friend, Sarah. I'm still in the middle of a very messy personal situation. I just really enjoyed your company last night. I promise to treat you with the greatest respect until it's all sorted out." After saying she'd enjoyed our chat and that her situation was a little complicated as well, she rang off, saying she was looking forward to Tuesday. Monday morning marked the start of a new pattern with Jessica. She began calling me at 6 a.m. every workday, about 6 p.m. when I usually got home from work, and again just before bedtime. Ostensibly, it was because she missed me, but my entreaties for her to come back were rebuffed. It was clear I was being checked on. Wednesday, I noticed a message on the home phone answering machine. It was only from a marketing company, but it was significant as it hadn't diverted to my mobile. Checking the home phone, I found the diversion gone, so I had to visit her. Tuesday, Sarah met me at her apartment, and we left straight away. She looked gorgeous. Once we were seated in the restaurant, I opened the conversation. So, would you like to tell me why your personal life is a bit complicated? Yes, her name is Ava. It turns out Ava was Sarah's 3-year-old daughter. The father did a bunk after deciding family life was too serious. Sarah's mother was looking after her tonight. Keen to distract her from asking me about my personal troubles, I changed the topic. The other night, when we talked at the bar, you said the conversation at your table was awful. What was that about? Oh, that awful conversation and stupid people. There was a woman there called Jessica. She is just temporarily separated from her husband, but intends to go back to him. They are just about to start a family, and she separated from him to force him to fight for her, spoil her more, be more romantic, and things like that. The sad thing was, though, that when she described what he did, he sounded pretty good already. He took her flowers every week, took her on date nights every month, and always seemed to be spoiling her despite working late every Thursday. He got up early on Fridays and made her breakfast. He even took her on a surprise cruise last year. Gee, I would have been happy with half of that for my ex. It made my friend Paige sad as well. She doesn't get anything like that. Some girls just don't know when they're well off, I suppose. Believe me, it gets stupider. Even before they separated, she was doing all sorts of things to try to make him jealous. Like what? Well, she used to come home from girls' nights out later and later with men's cologne on. Bloody hell, once she even got a pair of panties from her friend Cara. She had just been laid, so you can imagine how they were. She put them on the floor of the bedroom till the next day. The guy didn't notice a thing. Her husband sounds naive or just loved her so much he never saw those things. When all that didn't work, she and her friend cooked up the trial separation thing. The idea is that he was supposed to get desperate and fight like hell for her, but the guy is doing nothing. Good for him. When he didn't react like he was supposed to, they decided to escalate. She stopped calling him, he ignored her. Then she got her friend to put the idea in his head that she was dating. All they've done, and the poor guy is just not responding. To tell you the truth, I have to admire him. It's exactly what I would do if someone treated me that way. What was really sad was when Paige asked how much effort she put into the marriage. I think Jessica realized at that point just how one-sided her relationship was. You would think that would spur her to stop all the nonsense, but it didn't. They've painted themselves into a corner, stuck with no idea what to do, all because a proud man isn't playing the game by their rules. Well, she could go back to him, lay it all out, and get back to normal. Yes, that's what I would do. I think that's what she really wants to do, except her friend is keeping her on track. Cara gave her a couple of funny looks. Could it be that the friend is trying to drive a wedge between them to steal the husband for herself? You know, you may be right. That would fit what I saw. That would make her one cold, evil witch. If you were the husband, what would you do? I don't know how their relationship has been, but my reflex would be to dump this stupid woman, move on to someone who would really appreciate him. At that point, our meals arrived, and we changed to more neutral topics. I couldn't believe how comfortable I felt with Sarah. When the waitress cleared the table, my conscience wouldn't allow me to continue this charade. You know, Sarah, all that you've said has impressed me. You are a very decent person with healthy values. Why, thank you, kind sir. Do you think I'm a decent person? With no hesitation, Sarah replied, Yes, I pride myself on being a good judge of character, and I'd stake money on you being a nice person. Oh dear, this is going to be difficult. I reached across the table and grabbed her hands, a vain attempt to stop her from escaping. Taking a deep breath, I plunged straight in. Please forgive me, Sarah, but I've been a bit deceptive. My justification is that I'm really confused and would do anything to ease the turmoil. I want you to know I respect you, so let me tell you the truth. My name is David, and I've been married for 8 years to a girl called Jessica. 4 weeks ago, she announced, over my objections, that she wanted a trial separation. A new friend advised me tonight to ditch her due to the disrespect she has shown me and the pain she caused. I was thinking the same. You were right. I treated her like a queen, but now realize how little she gave back. I watched a cavalcade of emotions cross Sarah's face before settling on horror. She put her clenched fist across her mouth. Oh my God, did I call your wife a stupid woman? Actually, I was deeply offended that you called her a stupid woman. That broke the ice a little, but I could see Sarah was still conflicted. I hurriedly added, "Do you realize that the first words out of your mouth weren't how I'd insulted you, but how you may have insulted me? That just confirms what a lovely person you are. Can you forgive me? Yes, you did use me a little, but I can see where you were coming from. Is that why you talked to me Friday night? Were you looking for a spy? Hey, you chatted me up, remember? Can I count on your friendship until this thing is resolved?" "Sure, David, but friendship is all I can offer. I don't want anything to do with killing your marriage." "Thanks. Your friendship is all I want. From my point of view, I thought we had a happy marriage with no hint that Jessica was dissatisfied. I came home from work one Tuesday, and she sprung the trial separation on me. She was just going to leave, but I forced her to give me some explanation. Not enough to stop me being confused. Because I put all my effort into either work or Jessica, I don't have any close friends. Is there any chance you can patch things up?" "I don't know, Sarah. A big part of me thinks I feel like a fool taking her back after how she treated me. Plus, after talking to you, I realized how one-sided my marriage was romantically. I'm a bit embarrassed, to tell you the truth." By mutual unspoken agreement, we changed to more neutral topics. We ended up having a lovely evening, which ended when Sarah wanted to relieve her mother. It was my suggestion that she think things through and contact me when she processed it all. I said I'd understand if I never heard from her again. The next day, I was walking toward the grocery store when I was hailed from the coffee shop down the street. I turned to see Jessica, Kara, and another girl with her back to me. When I got to the table, my heart sank as I recognized Paige. She gave the game away by exploding with, "You," as she recognized me. The implications quickly unfolded. Jessica would soon know I was spying on her. She had also no idea that I'd seen there were no men involved in her Thursday night bar trip. Depending on what Paige said, Jessica might even deduce that Sarah had given the game away. I should have been worried, but I wasn't. I do have to analyze that later. After a brief, polite conversation, I left them to it, explaining it was time to get home and cook. I watched Jessica's face to see if this elicited any guilt, but it went right over her head. The expected phone call didn't come until 9:30 p.m. that night. I was almost asleep and wasn't at my best. "David, didn't I warn you not to spy on me? The fact that you did shows your lack of trust in me. Not only that, it shows an extreme lack of respect. Look at it from my point of view. Jessica, you pulled this stunt on me and refused to tell me what it's about. Don't you think I may want to try to find out for myself? It was a clear violation of our rule, David." "Your rules, Jessica." I waited for this to sink in. What a waste of time. Her next comments were strangely philosophical. "David, dear, I just don't know what to make of all this. This trial separation isn't working out as I thought it would. I'm not sure if I love you as much as I need to. I think we need to extend it by another month or two, see what happens." She paused, waiting for me to explode. I stayed silent. Unless she'd had a change of heart, this was an escalation to get me to try harder. What was the old saying? If at first you don't succeed, try again. I preferred the mining variant. If at first you don't succeed, try more explosives next time. It wasn't much of an escalation, though. Simply extending the separation and confirming her reduced opinion of me was lame. Of course, there was more to come. "All right, David, I didn't want to do this, but I think it's only fair I should be able to date other guys. Maybe if I do that, I'll realize how good you are and regain my old feelings." She paused for the explosion. This time my silence wasn't deliberate. I was just speechless. When I could speak, I chose not to. I knew I couldn't control what I'd say, but it was unlikely to solve any problems. "Are you still there, David?" I didn't answer. I considered telling her that I knew exactly what she was up to, but she had to decide to do the right thing for the right reason. If I laid all my cards on the table, she'd probably come back, but the underlying problem would still be there. "David, I think you dating would be a bad move, Jessica. In fact, let me be clear. If you date or behave in a manner that's inappropriate as a married woman, then I'll consider that you've opted out of our marriage. By inappropriate, I mean meeting a guy more than once, dancing with, touching, or kissing another guy. Am I clear enough? I don't know if we can salvage this marriage even if you come back today, but I'm willing to try. Will you come back where you belong, Jessica?" This time, the silence was hers. "Well, I don't think you're in a position to dictate terms, David. You don't own me. I think I'm free to find the romance and companionship I've missed for the last month." This was the point I seriously began to think Jessica was deranged. Should I point out that the reason she was missing romance was that she'd run out on the romancer? So, Jessica, you insist on opening up this marriage. You never gave me a reason for this separation. I could understand the closest theory I could think of, that you were trying to make me work harder, put more effort into our marriage. I dismissed that as being too disrespectful. One advantage of having you gone is it gives me time to think. I realize now I appear to have put more effort into our relationship than you have. Now I'm back to being bewildered again. The silence. When she broke it, it was in a voice one beat away from a sob, like she was following a plan that she realized was flawed. David, my mind is made up. The dial tone announced the end of the conversation, and I suspected our marriage. Bizarrely, when I came home Thursday and Friday nights, Jessica's car was parked 50 meters along the street in the opposite direction. I watched her drive away 5 minutes later. Sarah called Thursday night. She told me I was totally forgiven. I was more relieved than I can describe. She asked for an update, and after assuring me she was only asking as a friend, I described my latest conversations with Jessica, adding my analysis of her probable motive. What are you going to do now, David? Just sit back and wait for her to give your marriage the final blow, I suppose? Do you want me to spy on her this weekend, David? No, don't soil yourself with this one, Sarah. How about we find out where they are, and you take me on a date to the same place? No, I won't stoop to her level. Good thinking, though. I would like to see you this weekend. We negotiated easily for a few minutes and finally decided on a Sunday afternoon picnic. She didn't push me on why I wasn't available Friday or Saturday. She knew. We must have talked for about 2 hours. Friday, it took no time at all to find Jessica and Kara. The fact they were at the same bar told me one of two possibilities. Either Jessica was confident I was too scared to spy on her, or more likely, she was relying on me spying on her. This time, I observed all the action through the windows, slightly ashamed of myself. This night, Jessica was well behaved. There was just her, Kara, and Paige. They just chatted until about 9 p.m. Kara accepted several dance offers, but the other two declined several times. Eventually, two persistent guys moved in, zeroing in on Jessica and Kara. Paige left shortly afterward, leaving the four sitting at the table. The two girls furtively checked out all the dark corners of the bar. I was pleasantly surprised when Kara and Jessica left alone at 10 p.m. I followed the taxi to their place and stayed watching until the lights went out. Saturday was a different story. Again, it was the same bar. This time, the same two guys were waiting and moved in straight away at 7:05 p.m. My marriage ended. After Kara left the table to dance with her chosen half of the dynamic duo, the other guy made his move, shuffling closer to Jessica. From my vantage point, I could see he had his hand on her leg. In the 5 minutes I gave her to get him to remove it, she must have scanned the bar at least 6 times. I walked into the bar. When she saw me coming, she had the decency to push the guy's hand away. The expression on her face could only be described as smug as she delivered her opening gambit. David, I warned you not to spy on me. Her fortunate victim, sensing my mood, stood up. Whether to confront me or escape, we'll never know. Ignoring all socially acceptable behavior, I stepped in real close to him, accentuating his diminutive size next to my 6'2". In a low growl, I delivered the shortest sentence in the English language. Go. He ran. I kept my eye on Jessica's face as I sat down in his vacated seat and pulled a roll of papers from my breast pocket. These are papers for a mutually agreed divorce. I've already filled them out. All you have to do is sign them. I've included a separate agreement on splitting our assets. It makes sense if I keep the house, since you've already moved out. I watched the smug expression turn to one closer to horror. I didn't wait to see the rest of the show. I desperately wanted to avoid Jessica seeing my watering eyes. She didn't say a word as I escaped. Curious, I went back to watching through the window. Jessica was crying within 2 minutes. Kara returned, confused. Once she glanced at the papers lying on the table, a huge grin spread across her face. Over the next hour, I watched Kara do most of the talking. 15 minutes in, Jessica stopped crying. An hour later, she looked quite relaxed. Her friend was good. She'd managed to convince Jessica that their plot was on track. I slept badly again that night. I knew the final confrontation was still to come. More pain for the woman I just couldn't turn my love off for. I was expecting Kara's visit the next day and pretended I wasn't home when she came. I ignored several phone calls from her. There were none from Jessica. At 1:30 p.m., I knocked on Sarah's door. She took one look at the bunch of red roses in my hand and gave me a huge hug. I was going to ask how you went the last few days, but I can see. God, this woman was perceptive. She knew friends didn't give each other roses, or that I'd give them to her with things half finished. She invited me in, and we walked up to an older lady, putting her arm around me. Sarah, introduce us. David, this is my mom, Laurie. Mom, this is my boyfriend, David. I was speechless, but in a nice way. I was also wondering how much Sarah had told her mother. Laurie solved that problem for me by asking, "So, is it finished?" All over but the shouting, as my old dad used to say. I then updated them on the latest developments, adding my supposition that Jessica hadn't accepted it as serious. There was still work to do to prove I was serious. By breaking the rules, she showed exactly how much respect she had for me. They could both see and hear my pain. Laurie hugged me as well. Then a little angel entered the room. Ava finished with her nap. Again, I was introduced. She looked disappointed when Sarah explained that we were going out. Even after Laurie explained how much fun they were going to have, I whispered to Sarah, "Can't she come with us?" "Are you sure?" "You're a package deal." "I accept that." "That would be great. It tears me up to be away from her all week while I'm at work, so I like to spend all weekend with her." Ava beamed when she was told the news. We had a great afternoon by the river. Sarah complained of feeling a little left out, but from the size of her smile, I knew I didn't have to take it seriously. I delivered both ladies home, where Laurie had already included me in dinner. I left, giving Sarah another chaste kiss on the cheek. Jessica must have been in her hiding spot just up the road when I got home. I hadn't even gotten the front door open when she pulled into the driveway. She left the engine running and got out, holding the papers I'd given her Saturday. "Here you go, David. Signed and witnessed. Good night." I was stunned. While she retreated back to her car, she hopped back in and belted up. Putting her car in reverse, she wound down the window and called over. "Now I called you a little bluff. Maybe you can ask me out on a date this week sometime. I'm free on Wednesday." With that, she took off. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and Jessica appeared to be from somewhere near the Horsehead Nebula. If it was all over but the shouting, then it was going to be some ugly shouting. The shouting started Monday evening. Kara was waiting for me in my driveway when I got home from work. Before I could react, she grabbed me and kissed me full on the lips as I stepped out of my car. I pushed her roughly away, shouting, "Listen, once and for all, I'm not the slightest bit interested in you, Kara." Any response from her was hijacked by the gunning of an engine, followed by the squealing of tires as Jessica screeched from her hiding place. Kara saw her coming and tried to escape down the driveway as Jessica drove in. She almost made it. Before the car even stopped, Jessica threw open the door, which knocked Kara over. Kara sprang to her feet, but was knocked flat by a slap to the side of the head with an awful lot of rage in it. This time, Kara was in no hurry to get up. Now, in normal circumstances, staying down would have been a good move when faced with an enraged tigress who suddenly realized she'd been taken for a fool. It wasn't. Jessica started laying into her with her feet. I would no more have gotten between them than if they were rabid dogs. Jessica's fury was incandescent. Finally, when Jessica was tiring but still foaming at the mouth, I risked tackling her to the ground. At that precise moment, a police car cruised by. Jessica and I were cuffed, and an ambulance was called for Kara. The police interviewed Jessica first. I could hear her yelling from where I was in the holding cells. They finally gave up and took her to cool her heels in the cell across from me. When it was my turn, I gave them the full story. I tried to make them see that Jessica's actions were justified. I felt I owed her that. I was released with an apology at 11 p.m. I went to work Monday as usual, never being so glad that I worked over a mile underground, where cell phones didn't work. On the way home, I updated Sarah via phone. She invited me for dinner again and passed on a request from Ava. Could that nice David read me a bedtime story tonight? I arrived home an hour later than normal. I worked with Kara's father and called in at his place to talk to him and his wife. I explained what I knew of their daughter's manipulation of my wife. Neither of them seemed particularly surprised. I urged them to try to influence Kara not to press charges against Jessica for assault. They promised to do what they could. Jessica's car was in the garage when I finally arrived home. Walking into the master bedroom, I saw her empty suitcases on the bed. The shower was running. Waiting downstairs with trepidation, I called Sarah and cancelled our dinner date. We discussed what tactics Jessica was likely to try. In hindsight, we both got it wrong. Jessica strode down the stairs, brimming with her usual confidence. "What's for dinner, David?" I didn't answer, so she came over and stood right in front of my chair. "I've decided to forgive you, David. We've both acted a bit silly, I know, but let's put it all behind us. I've come back. If you haven't organized dinner yet, let's go out." When I found my tongue again, I couldn't help blurting out, "Can you tell me exactly how I acted a bit silly, Jessica? And what have I done to be forgiven for?" "For the hurt you caused me with that silly divorce trick, David. That was really low of you. Luckily, I knew you were bluffing all along." "What makes you think it was a bluff, Jessica?" "Because Kara said so." Whatever delusions were keeping Jessica going until this point looked like they just evaporated. She had been so far under Kara's spell that some remnant had still clung on until now. Her face went white, and she sat with a thud on the coffee table. I sat there in fascinated discomfort while a new reality levered its way into her mind. The show lasted 5 or 6 minutes. "I gave you up, didn't I? You weren't bluffing with the divorce, were you?" "I was so sure you were that I just signed it." I shook my head sadly from side to side. "For the record, Jessica, you didn't give me up. You threw me away. I've always done everything I could think of, or had the energy to do, for you. What did I get? You walked out, leaving me lost and alone. I tried to warn you. Didn't I say it was a gamble? How much more direct could I have been? After all the love and effort I put in, I expected, no, I knew, I'd earned at least your respect and loyalty. Did I get those? No, I got kicked in the teeth, disrespected, and left broken and confused. Did you ever look at the balance of effort in our marriage and see the same lopsided result I've seen over the last 4 weeks? No, you just let some manipulative witch convince you that you could get more. Well, you can't have Kara now. I've sorted her out." "Where the hell did that come from?" "Look, this has nothing to do with Kara. Sure, I realized at one point that this was all a con on her part to drive a wedge between us, but I've never thought of her as anything but the skank she is. So, we're all right, aren't we, David?" This was it. This was the point of no return. "No, we're not okay, Jessica. We have the divorce papers to prove it. I can't get past the disrespect you've shown me all along, not to mention all the threats. I have to tell you, when you threw me away, someone else picked me up." Jessica's face went even paler. "What do you mean, David?" "I met someone else, Jessica. She started off as just a friend who helped me through this. God knows I needed one, my only friend having just walked out on me. I'm sorry, Jessica, but you gambled and you lost." With a clear conscience, I strode to the door and walked out into a new life. If I was quick, I might just be able to make story time. Thanks for watching this intense story of betrayal and resolution. What would you do if you found yourself in David's shoes? Let us know in the comments below.
Thanks for hanging out with me on today's episode, brother. I'm Jack, host of this podcast, and it's great having you here. If today's story hit home, send it on to a buddy who might need it. Remember, we're all in this together, turning life's curvy balls into wins. If you have an opinion or story to share, then drop a line in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss out. Until next time, keep your chin up and keep pushing forward. Stay strong, folks.